The Cinemassacre truth has got its own monster madness, and this variety is made especially for asses. But whose reviews are better? Well, you might be surprised, cause ours are actually funny and they ain't plagiarized. So order up some McDonald's, bundle up tight. We're stabbing the garbage out of Saturday night.
Today I'm going to be looking at an obscure horror short film called The Night Prowler, directed by none other than myself, James Duncan Rolfe. Now, why am I reviewing one of my own movies? Well, other than having a perfect opportunity to stroke my ego, it also means I don't have to bother watching as many movies for this year's Monster Madness. It's a good thing I have made over 500 of them to choose from, don't you think? Anyway, I made The Night Prowler back in 2002 for a class assignment in film studies with a minimum requirement of 2 minutes. It's loosely based upon The Imp of the Perverse by Edgar Allan Poe, which was quite similar to Poe's more famous story, The Telltale Heart, in that it revolves around an unnamed narrator who kills somebody and eventually confesses despite nobody suspecting them. The movie starts off with a shot of the night sky before slowly descending upon the streets of Philadelphia, where we get our first look at the titular prowler, an ominous man dressed in black. Those who are familiar with my work may recall seeing another figure in black from The Head incident and its sequel, The Head Returns. For years, I've been interested in making a film based upon the Man in the Neighborhood watch sign. I always had a morbid curiosity about who he could be and why his presence would justify the paranoia around him. Perhaps this man was a sexual predator who would flash his 10-incher, or maybe, like in this instance, he was a psychopathic killer, hell-bent on stabbing the garbage out of people. Admittedly, there is not much of a plot. My main goal was to capture the unnerving feeling of walking alone in the city during nighttime. I accomplished this by having the Prowler wander around various areas in such a way that it suggests he's everywhere all at once, playing upon our instinctual fear of evil lurking wherever darkness resides. Watching it now, however, I can't help but think that his aimless walking reminds me of Waldo from that fucking NES game. Throughout the short, we hear the Prowler vaguely reminisce about a murder he had committed.
The coroner's verdict was death by visitation of God. The idea of detection never once entered my mind.
I provided the voiceover and used excerpts from The Imp to form the Prowler's inner dialogue. Much like the narrator in the original story, the Prowler explains that he had no real reason other than to do it for the sake of it being wrong. It's a very chilling motive for one to have, and even more so in this case as the short ends without the Prowler getting caught, leaving him free to potentially claim more victims. The narration, combined with the eerie blue-tinted visuals, gives The Night Prowler a much more psychological bent than my other movies, and for once, it doesn't involve killer, inanimate objects coming to life. The main purpose of our class assignment was to film the entire thing in one long, fluent take. However, I had some prior experience with shooting long takes from my earlier movie, Kill for Thrill, which was sort of a cross between Alfred Hitchcock's Rope and the previously mentioned Telltale Heart. Simply put, it was a pain in the ass to shoot, and the end result was a little rough. That's why this time I took the opposite approach and constantly cheated by cutting every time I spun the camera around. I wanted to see how many times I could get away with it. The professor was so amazed by my brilliant ingenuity, he gave me an A on the project. Now, I know there's inevitably going to be some assholish complaints out there. They will probably say that I should have failed the assignment for deliberately breaking the long take a total of 18 times. However, I consider myself exempt from such criticism because I was taking a page straight out of Hitchcock's book. You see, Rope actually made use of cuts, as the camera would run out of film every 10 minutes and Hitchcock would try to cover it up. Since the master of suspense was applauded for it, that means I should be too. Besides, none of my critics appreciated my other cinematic masterpiece, AVGN The Immortal, which had an uninterrupted 11-minute-long take showing off my dramatic acting.
Curse you, foul, abhorrent beast!
There's simply no pleasing those uneducated hecklers. In contrast, I graduated from the prestigious University of the Arts, one of the finest institutions that the creative minds of Philadelphia can go to, and oh yeah, that's right. Okay, let's just move on from here. It may be hard to believe, but The Night Prowler is probably one of the most effective encapsulations of myself I've made as a filmmaker. It combines many of my interests such as Alfred Hitchcock, Edgar Allan Poe, slasher villains, and even my love for heavy metal music. The title, for instance, is taken directly from AC/DC's Night Prowler, while Black Sabbath's E5150 served as the music for the short. In addition, E5150 spells out evil in Roman numerals, which not only made the track an awesome way to set the mood, but also a fitting companion to the themes of both the Imp and Night Prowler. To repeat myself somewhat, I'm a big fan of Poe-related media, especially the series of film adaptations by Roger Corman. In last year's Monster Madness, I mentioned how Corman was fascinated with psychology and made his Poe films under a Freudian lens. However, he never touched upon the Imp of the Perverse, which is kinda odd because it's perhaps the most psychoanalytical out of all Poe's writing. The main theme of the Imp of the Perverse is that we all have a desire, or an imp so to speak, that compels us to do things precisely because we shouldn't do them. It has been said that Edgar Allan Poe wrote the Imp as a way to explain, or less charitably, excuse his consistent streak of self-destructive behavior. From his struggles with alcohol to habitually making enemies, Poe's life was littered with many questionable acts that heavily contributed to his well-known financial problems. If I may get vulnerable for a moment, I very much relate to this concept, as I've long experienced this feeling as well. A sensation that some being has been resting upon my shoulder, like some diabolical glitch gremlin, nurturing my worst habits while it gets to sit back and watch my misery unfold. I look back at my life and think about all the things it could have been, but every step of the way, he convinced me to sabotage myself. You may know this being as Bames or perhaps Bimmy, however, I simply refer to him as the Bimp.
You shall become Bimmy Rolfe.
Time to find local actors and...
No, James, the lady in movie in California.
Gotta get out of my head.
You have no time, James. You have no time. You have no time, James. You have no time.
I gotta get out of my head.
You have no time,
I gotta get
James.
out of my head.
You have no time. Embrace me. James, start a cover band. Be your friends with Exposure Jimmy Bo. They should just be grateful to know you. Sell out to Screenway. Become a shill for sponsors. No more camera angles.
I give in to a craving that gathers strength as the moments fly. I am one of the many uncounted victims of the Imp of the Perverse.
You have no time, James. You have no time.
Stop!
It's 5:40.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Oh, I am very aware.